In the latter part of the 17th century, a little-known battle took place in Scotland, amidst a backdrop of conflict, strife, power struggles, and the emerging Enlightenment. This battle turned out to be the last clan battle ever fought in Scotland. But before we get to this battle, we go first to St. Andrew's University, where this story begins. This battle revolved around a young man named Cole MacDonald, a Highland lad who was away at St. Andrew's University seeking education and a better way of life. When his father, the chief of the MacDonald clan of Keppoch, passed away, the year is 1682. Imagine yourself at the prestigious University of St. Andrews in Scotland, surrounded by the grandeur of academia and the pursuit of knowledge. You are away from your home in the Glens. You are a student of arts and sciences. You are surrounded by the sons of earls, lords, clergy mostly, those whose ancestry is Norman. But there are also many sons of Highland chiefs. The atmosphere is electric with intellectual curiosity and the promise of enlightenment. Suddenly, your world is shattered by the arrival of the headmaster, who strides across the courtyard toward you, a grave expression on his face. He delivers the devastating news. Your beloved father, the Laird Alexander MacDonald, has passed. In an instant, your dreams of scholarly pursuits are shattered, and you are thrust into a world of duty, responsibility, and the weight of your clan's legacy. You must return to the Laird's Manor in Glenroy, forever altering the course of your life. When his father died, Cole not only inherited the chieftainship of the clan, but he also inherited a long-standing land dispute with the MacKintosh Clan. The feud had been ongoing for what seemed like centuries. In the 15th century, the chief of Clan MacKintosh had acquired a charter to the lands in Glenspean and Glenroy. It is unclear why the MacKintosh clan did not bring the issue forward before. A few years earlier, in 1667, a MacDonald raiding party lifted a number of cattle from Lindsay of Glenesk, and Lindsay was married to the MacKintosh chief's daughter. It is very probable that this event became reason enough for the MacKintosh chief to bring his charter to the Marquess of Huntly in 1672. The Marquess was the feudal overlord for both clan chiefs. MacKintosh requested a commission to eject the MacDonalds from the lands in Glenspean and Glenroy. At first, the appeal to the Marquess of Huntly did not receive much attention. The Marquess himself was quite young at the time and inexperienced. He also recognized that MacKintosh had a fair bit of power within Huntly's domain. MacKintosh was a sheriff or magistrate within Inverness. Huntly did not deny the charter or its existence, but he had little desire to aid MacKintosh. In 1681, Lachlan MacKintosh, angered by the inaction of Huntly, took matters into his own hands and appeared before the King's Privy Council at Perth. His appeal to the Privy Council was successful, and he obtained a commission of fire and sword against the MacDonalds of Keppoch. This decision would have far-reaching consequence for Cole MacDonald. Like his father before him, Cole had no desire to leave the glens of Spean and Roy, which he saw as his ancestral home. These rugged and picturesque valleys had been home to the MacDonalds for centuries, and the clan had a deep attachment to these glens. These lands held the ancestral burial lands of the clan. They were not just a piece of property, but a symbol of their identity, heritage, and the legacy of their ancestors. Cole was determined to avoid the old ways of violence. He traveled to Inverness in order to meet with Lachlan MacKintosh and negotiate a settlement. However, his attempts at peaceful resolution were met with hostility. Lachlan had Cole arrested and thrown into the Inverness toll booth, where he remained for several months under armed guard. The Earl of Huntly, annoyed with MacKintosh's abuse of his authority, ordered MacKintosh to release MacDonald. Cole was released on bail, but tensions between the two clans remained. Cole realized that negotiation was not an option. For a few years, the situation remained relatively calm. By 1688, the government had become impatient with Highland lawlessness and had started to follow a practice of bringing lowland regiments of regular troops into the Highlands to enforce the peace. In 1688, the government renewed a number of commissions of fire and sword. In March 1688, the Privy Council renewed the commission given to Lachlan in 1681, reigniting the conflict. The Privy Council had approved a lowland contingent of several hundred soldiers and had assigned Captain Kenneth Mackenzie to support MacKintosh. And so, in July of that year, Lachlan invaded Glenroy and Glenspean with over 1,000 men. These included MacKintosh's own clansmen, as well as others from Clan Chattan. Cole MacDonald retreated into Glenroy with only 300 men. Instead of engaging in direct battle, he opted for a policy of harassment. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Cole sent word to their relatives, the MacDonalds of Glencoe and Glengarry, appealing for help. Cole strategically avoided battle until they could be reinforced by these allied clans. As daylight broke on the morning of August 4, 1688, the MacDonalds were spotted on the high ground of Mulroy. MacDonald's own force consisted of about 400 men on the south slope of Mulroy. They appeared as though they were assembling for a last stand against the much larger force under MacKintosh. Unbeknownst to MacKintosh, 300 members of the Glencoe and Glengarry MacDonalds and some Clan Cameron had assembled on the far side of Mulroy, out of sight. MacKintosh was emboldened with what he saw as a much smaller force getting ready for battle. He ordered his men to line up in formation and to proceed uphill against the MacDonalds. Some accounts suggest that the two sides first engaged in an hour-long musket battle. At some point during the melee, Cole MacDonald signaled for the reserve force to assemble. Once the reserve had come over the crest of Mulroy, the combined force charged downhill toward the MacKintosh and government troops. Despite being outnumbered, with 700 men against MacKintosh's 1,000 men, the slope gave Cole's force a more favorable position. The government forces, armed with bayonets, proved no match for the MacDonalds' long-handled lochabar axes, swords, and shields. The favorable ground enabled the battle to turn into a rout with many casualties for Mackenzie and MacKintosh. Many of the government soldiers and MacKintosh clansmen fled in panic across the Roy River. It was said that a government soldier, Donald McBain, was able to escape by leaping over a gully. As McBain described much later,
the MacDonalds came down the hill without either shoe, stocking, or bonnet. They broke upon us with sword, target, and lochabar axes. There were a great many heads cloven. I was sadly affrighted, never having seen the like before. I took to my heels and run 30 miles before I looked behind me.
Several MacKintosh leaders, as well as Captain Mackenzie, were killed in the battle. Lachlan was so confident in his campaign that he brought his wife with him so that they could settle into Keppoch House. Both Lachlan and his wife, Lady MacKintosh, were captured. Imagine how Lachlan felt, now being jailed by Cole, whom he had forcibly jailed some 6 years earlier in Inverness. Cole MacDonald later agreed to release Lachlan and his wife, on condition, of course, that he revoke his claim on MacDonald lands in Glenroy and Glenspean. Today, the Battle of Mulroy is commemorated by a small stone cairn. One can still see the broad slope of Mulroy leading up to the crest, and one can imagine the charge of Highlanders toward the government and MacKintosh troops. The cairn stands as a reminder of the last clan battle in Scotland, a testament to the conflicts and power struggles of the time, as well as the emerging ideals of enlightenment that inspired individuals like Cole MacDonald to seek a better way. Keppoch House was razed to the ground after the Battle of Culloden. However, the current Keppoch House, built in 1760, still stands to this day,